Take 3.
Welcome everyone to the Voice of Terminus show. Today we're here with Lexa. Say hello, Lex.
Hello, people.
And today we have a player Q&A, and we're joined by Burnsmh. Say hello, mate.
What's going on, guys?
For all of you that do not know this guy, you will get to know him throughout the show. We're going to ask him some questions. You'll get to know who this person is, what he does, and he's actually a very valuable person within the Pantheon community. To give you a brief background of this person, he brought us that awesome Pantheonwiki to life, and we're going to interview this guy and get to know him. So let's go and kick it off. What do you say? Tell us a bit about your gaming background, man.
Gaming background, I started on EverQuest Online Adventures, moved up to EQ on the PC, Final Fantasy 11. I played RuneScape a little bit. So many MMOs, it's hard to count. Just mainly MMOs, a lot of first-person shooters, just the basic stuff.
Cool. So, you obviously here for Pantheon as well, just like us. So what got you interested?
The community. Honestly, it's something that I've missed in a lot of games nowadays. Your name in a lot of these games doesn't mean anything like it used to back in the day. Back in the day, if you had a bad reputation on your server, nobody wanted to group with you, nobody trusted you, and you had to build your reputation. And I miss that. I think that it puts more like an impact on how the community works if everybody's responsible for what they say and do.
Cool.
Oh, yeah. I feel the same way.
Yep.
So, when it comes to Pantheon, what's the most exciting thing for you?
I think that, again, going back to the community thing, I think that it's going to help me relive those days when I was younger and MMOs were still fresh. And since everything's been moving to this, like, your character is the hero of this MMO world. You are the most special snowflake that ever walked the earth. I don't like that in an MMO. When I'm playing MMO, I want to be one speck of a snowflake in a blizzard, and that blizzard is what you care about. So you have to care about the whole community as a whole, not the individual player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've always kind of told people that, like with EverQuest 1, it always gave me a feel of, if you want to be a hero, then be a hero. So tell us a bit about your project, the official wiki and how it started.
Well, I donated to the pledges, and then I started looking at some of the website, and I found a few HTML errors in the site. So I brought it up in the support forum, and I talked to Ben, and showed him some of the errors. We discussed some things, and then I emailed Chris. I talked to Ben, then I emailed Chris, and I was like, hey, if there's anything I can do pro bono. I don't have time necessarily to take on a second part-time job or anything, but if you want my help pro bono, I could maybe do some server work for you. I could help run the website. I could, do code things if you need me to. And we're still talking about that. But then I was actively looking for something else to help with, because I can't contribute just a crap ton financially. So I was like, what can I do to really help impact this? So I looked at the wiki, and I saw that, like, the thumbnail images, the images on the templates, the buttons, nothing was uniform. Like, people had just gone in and uploaded pictures that like they were either outdated or didn't necessarily match the content. A lot of the text was just scattered. Like, there was no cohesive text. All the links were either outdated or broken. So I went through, updated the links, collaborated with all the text, like pushed it together, updated all the images, built thumbnails, looked at the Pantheon HTML, like the source code for the actual website, and I pulled a lot of like bullet points and stuff like that, and then implemented them on the wiki to kind of give it more of a uniform feel. So when you go to the website and you see the little like warrior symbol bullet points, those are now on the wiki, so it kind of gives it a little bit of cohesiveness between the two. And I basically just went through and just redesigned how a lot of it worked. And I went so far as like building things that weren't there and didn't have necessarily a place right away, but they will be valuable later. Like the guild system, I implemented that where there's now a template that all you have to do is go to the bottom, copy the template I made, and paste it, and you just fill in the blanks, and your guild is then listed on the official wiki. And you can put a guild banner, all your information there. And then the next thing I did is I took the stream that they did with Co back in December, where they were showing off the perception system. And I thought, they basically gave us an entire quest, start to finish. So I took screenshots from that, and I took text from it. I downloaded the video, I stopped it, I took pictures, I took text, everything I could do, and I built an entire walkthrough for that quest so that people like will have a template now. So somebody, the launch day, and they go, man, I just did this really awesome quest. I would love to share how I did it with everybody else that might be confused how to do it. Well, now they can just go pull the template up, fill in the information, and everybody has it.
See, and that's awesome. I mean,
That's awesome, dude.
how many people do we know that are actually going to use the wiki, especially for quests? I am. I'm not too proud to admit it.
We'll all get there. We'll all get there.
Yep. So, you're on the next one.
Yep. Explain to someone who's unfamiliar with a system like a wiki how they can benefit or even contribute.
Okay, so the wiki is a little weird. It doesn't use HTML markup to in its design. It does, but doesn't. So what it really uses is use mod wiki. The more common name for that is like wiki text or wiki edit. It's not open source, but it's like a publicly released HTML format that Wiki has given us to use. And it's a really watered down form of programming. It's really easy to use, but you still have to invest a little bit of time to really know how to use it efficiently. So what I'm trying to do right now, like I said, I have a few projects in the works as far as the wiki goes, is I'm trying to build some just flat out template pages that will be a how-to of just copying and pasting so that people can use that. But until that's done, or until I have it in a manner that I think that most people who don't understand even basic HTML can understand it, will be just go to the forums and you can send me a message directly, or you can just post in the forums to somebody might know how to do it and want to help out. Go post in the forum, say, hey, I had this idea for crafting, or for how the land the rolling hills of this place, there's this special area that I know about, and I think that people might want to know about it too. Put that in the forums, and somebody will go add it to the wiki for you if you don't know how to do it.
Nice, cool. So let's go and get into some Pantheon related questions. What class and race are you likely to pick, and why?
Off the bat, human warrior. Like that was my go-to in EverQuest. That was my go-to in a lot of games. I don't alt a lot, but if I was going to alt, I would say dwarf cleric, and human necromancer. Like necromancer and bard are, it's killing me that I'm gonna have to wait on those classes because those are two of the biggest ones I want to play so bad. Whenever I was signing up, I saw necromancer and I was like, oh, yep, that's it. But then I heard I had to wait and I was like, dang it, well, warrior it is.
Sadly, I'm kind of right there with you. I'm an old school necromancer. I kind of got forced into a tank role and it just stuck.
And I like tank roles. I like tank and healing. It makes me feel like it's a more integral part of the group, and it's easier to find groups.
Absolutely. Tanks are like kind of the rock stars of the group, if they like it or not. Some people don't like it, but I don't know. Because every now and then I kind of get into that whole situation where I love being a tank, and there's other days where there's so much stress to get something done. You're like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
So, what's your least favorite race in class?
Least favorite race, and I know I'm going to catch a little bit of flack for this from somebody, is the Scar. Ooh. The reason, yeah, I know, but hear me out. I don't like it. Okay, so it's not that I don't like them. I love their lore. I think their lore is just absolutely fantastic. It's a great story, and if anybody hasn't read it, please go read it. It's awesome. But the visuals of them, I don't necessarily like so much. Like, I don't know what it is. If you asked me to pinpoint it, I couldn't. But there's something visually about them that I don't like. And I think that, like, I could play a class that I don't necessarily enjoy 100% because there's always going to be some element in there that I can enjoy. Like, my least favorite class would be like a paladin or a dire lord, just because if I'm going to play a tank, I'm going to play a warrior. I'm not going to play a warrior cleric. I'm not going to play a necro cleric. I'm going to play a warrior.
Right. So Lex, do tell, how do you really feel?
You know, I've been on both sides of the tanking fence. I've been a pure warrior tank. I've been a hybrid tank. There's something that appeals to that evil side of me where I can actually be an evil character. If I felt like if I was a role player, I could role play as an evil guy because that's what my character is, a Scar Dire Lord, you know, and it's kind of a release for me. And that's why that's my first choice. But Yarnella can actually back me up on this. I've always said that if a Scar Dire Lord doesn't turn out to be one of the better tanks, I will go Ogre or Warrior. I've said it since day one. That's my backup tank class. But that's the min-max for me. And as far as the Scar go, hey man, each their own, you know? I mean, the only ones I'm really going to rag on are the halflings, just because that fills the Scar in me, you know? Just eat them. But I mean, I understand what you're saying. I mean, I think it might be the legs that throw you off, or it might be the way the face and the lips go. Because I know a lot of people that are actually, they like evil races, but they're very turned off by that model if they see it on the website.
It might be the hooks as well.
It could be. But, you know, to each their own. I think they look cool. The legs kind of bug me a little bit. And the only thing that I really worry about with the Scar is, how am I going to look in armor? You know?
So, a little pun here real quick. Welcome to the Voice of Terminus show. I'm joined by my new co-host, Burnsmh, and we are here today to interview Lexa. All good fun.
Hey, Lex, you wanted my opinion.
Lex, you're still on, dude.
Oh, I am? Ah! Okay. Sorry, I kind of got caught up in my own little world. So, if you had to choose between either the two, race or class, of your least favorite, which one would you pick and why?
Class. Just because I think that, like, there's always going to be some element of a class that I can deal with. Mm-hmm. If I had to play a paladin, I could play a paladin, just working around the feeling of it, because I can always modify how I play that character. But like, if I have to stare at a character that I don't like the model of when I play maybe like 2-3 hours a night, I'm not going to get a lot of enjoyment out of that. So I think visually it's too unappealing for me.
Right. Now, kind of as a question that pertains to the race, are you the kind of player that actually puts yourself in the shoes of your character?
A lot, yeah. That's why I don't like to alt a lot.
Right. I'm the same way. That's why I have a hard time playing female characters, because I can't see myself as a female character.
Same way.
So
Yeah.
that question was also just answered right now as well. Anyway, moving on. Jokes, they come with the show. They come with the territory.
Hey, I'm relating to our interviewee, just making me like him even more.
So, what mechanics are you mostly looking forward to?
Okay, so
Toughest
here's where it gets kind of weird for me. It's like I'm looking forward to something that we don't know if it even exists yet. So in EverQuest and in Final Fantasy XI, which were two of my top tier MMOs that I loved the most when I was growing up with MMOs, were battery classes. And what I mean by battery class, I'm sure a lot of people know what that means, but battery classes are utility classes that are, there's only a few classes that get mana regen abilities that they can cast on other players. Like bards in EverQuest had, well, in EQOA at least, they had an ability where they could increase the mana regeneration of everybody in the party. Same thing in Final Fantasy XI, and I think enchanters in EverQuest could do battery abilities as well. So, what mechanic am I looking for? It's the group makeup. The how they're going to handle the group makeup right now is they've said you're going to have your tanks, you're going to have your healers, you're going to have your DPSs, and then you're going to have your crowd control. Well, back in the day, you had to have crowd control. That, if I was going to go out and as a tank, I always made sure I had a crowd control in the group. It wasn't even a question back in the day. But we didn't think of it as the Holy Trinity like we do now, because the term Holy Trinity came a lot later, if you think about it, because we didn't label everything like that back in the day.
Right.
So, but back then, batteries, they weren't necessary. You could still group without a battery, but it made it so much more, I don't want to say easier, but enjoyable. It didn't necessarily kill your downtime, but as an emergency, oh no, the cleric's out of mana and I just pulled 4 mobs, we're gonna wipe. And then the battery goes, hey, guess what I can do? And I'm like, hey, I just realized why I love you and you're here.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm kind of very interested to see how the classes all synergize together myself.
It's definitely an interesting approach that they've taken, and they've already mentioned that basically, while it's still relevant, the quadrinity, or whatever they call it, you can have 2 tanks in your group, or 2 healers in your group, or 2 crowd controllers in your group. It just comes down to different tactics, different strategies, different approaches, and that's what got me really excited from the grouping aspect, because it really bums me out in MMOs when you have to look for a specific class because you've already got a certain class already in your group. We can't take a 3rd healer with us because it's pointless. We can't take a 2nd tank with us because, hey, the game isn't built that way. And they're giving us options to approach the game with an open mind and, go out and see what risks are going to approach us with this group setup. What challenges are we going to face with this group setup? Are we, is it the most optimal group? No, it's not. But, it gives us the chance to use the socialization aspect of what they're looking for. No hours-long LFG so-and-so. Just grab the next guy and roll with it. I'm looking forward to that the most.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to open up some interesting combinations that we can do with, you're saying, grab the next person that shows up and let's start heading out. Well, with a CC class, for instance, we know that druids are going to be able to CC. We know that rogues are probably going to have some form of CC as well. but a rogue is also a damage dealer.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm getting ready to leave town. We're getting ready to go start our adventure. We're gonna go camp out for 3 hours. We grab the last rogue that we saw. We get there and he's like, "Oh yeah, I don't really know how to crowd control.
Mm-hmm.
I just play a rogue for damage dealing."
Yep.
Well, guess what you get to learn today, buddy?
That's right. But there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that actually gives you a connection with a stranger, because now you're showing them how to do something. Most people, not everybody, are actually very thankful to actually have someone to help them become better and more well-rounded at their class.
Yeah.
When I first started playing a tank, I loved it when people helped me out, because I was a necromancer and I had no clue what I was doing.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of us can relate to that.
Yeah, nobody starts out being amazing. You got to help each other when the game first comes out.
Yep.
So, moving on. If you could play Pantheon right now, what and where would you go and do?
The first place I'd go, and I'm probably gonna butcher the name, is Kagya Sands. I've always been drawn to the more deserty type places. When I played EverQuest or EQOA, I loved Freeport back then. Okay, so EQOA, did either of you guys play EQOA?
I didn't.
You did, like I said?
Yep.
So it took place, like, I want to say 500 years before the original EverQuest. And Freeport was just this desert, barren wasteland. There was like an oasis a little bit ways down south from it. That was my favorite zone. And then like in the oasis there was a fist of orcs called the Death Fist Orc Clan, and they had like these big desert buildings and like terrible wooden structures. I loved it. And then Final Fantasy XI, there was a desert right by a beach. It was like mid-level or early teens.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but I loved that place. Like I loved spending hours out there and just grinding mobs. I've always been drawn to that area. And I think that also like the other areas that would appeal to me are forest areas, but I don't like overwhelming forest areas as well. Like if I'm going to a forest area, I don't want there to be a bunch of pretty flowers. I don't want there to be vines and all this other stuff. I just want trees, grass, and some bushes. Like that's my idea of a forest. But I live in Texas. I live in a swamp, and down here are like that's what I'm used to. So that's what appeals to me.
Yeah, kind of, you look at it and it feels familiar.
Yeah, it's what I grew up. I was a Boy Scout, and we'd go camping and stuff. Like that's what I like. And then what would I do is I want to grind mobs. Like that was. I want to set up a camp. I want to go pull stuff to my group. I want us to kill it, and I want to do that for 4 or 5 hours and just talk to people, get to know people, hang out, shoot the shit for a few hours, and chill out. Like that is like meditation level for me. I love it. It's so calming. I'll crack open a soda, get a little bag of chips, and just turn off my brain and just enjoy chatting and playing.
Well, yeah, I mean, back in EverQuest, at least for me, grouping felt more like a little social party.
Yeah.
That's what I think I kind of missed the most. Now, just to kind of, before we move on, I just kind of want to ask, how would you feel if there were no camps in Pantheon? Instead, you had to actually move around constantly.
I actually started a thread about that in the forums where I asked everybody else. I was like, I see it as 3 different things. You have static camps, you have semi-dynamic, and then you have 100% dynamic, where you're constantly moving. Semi-dynamic, there are mobs that, stay in one general area that you can predict, but then on your way there, you could get surprised, or they're 100% random, I think I'll be able to adapt to whatever the devs put in the game, but my preference would be like semi-dynamic, where there are areas where I know there's static mobs and I can go get them if I want to. but there's always that sense of danger that while I'm on my way there might be an unexpected patrol. There might be a spawn point, hidden mobs, stealth mobs waiting for me to go get their teammates that are standing there.
Yeah, I can certainly relate to that. So tell us about one of your most standout or funniest moments in your previous MMO experience.
Okay, so how I got so Burnsmh is a handle I use online. It's just my last name and my initials. It's just a basic thing that I've used. I use it for like professional reasons and stuff like that. The handle that I use when I'm like actually in game a lot is Bannon, and how I got that name is like one of the funniest stories that I have. Is I was on EverQuest Online Adventures, and there were a lot of GM events back in that game. There were a lot, like the GMs actually would show up whenever people were being jerks to each other, and like, we're gonna settle this right here, right now, and I'm gonna kill the loser. Like literally, he had a sword that like it was the only PvP weapon in the game, and he'd knock you with it and you'd die. It was great. Well, there was we were at these bandit camps, and like you're gonna know what I'm talking about when I say this. We were just trying to level, but I had a dual motive. I was trying to get the Crim Blade because it's hilarious. And we're sitting there, we're sitting there farming this thing. And this other guy, we had the best camp in the area. It was right next to this tent. And this dude just kept coming with mobs, and he was just training us over and over and over again. And we kept surviving. But I kept reporting him because he was like in shout going, "Get out of my camp. I want that camp back." And I was like, "I'm just going to report you. I'm not even going to argue with you." So I reported him so many times that the GM actually showed up, and he was like, "Look, you reported this dude like 30 times in like an hour. What's going on?" And he actually, before he actually showed up, he had been watching from afar what was happening. So he shows up, and the dude runs his train the last time into my camp. And the GM shows up in front of him and just wipes out the train and then kills the dude and then bans him for 72 hours. And I was like, and so he tells us, he's like, you reported him a bunch. I saw what was going on. We've been talking in whispers. And he goes, so I banned him for 72 hours. I go, thank you for banning him. And I spelt it wrong. I put BANIN. And so I go, wait, I meant thank you for banning him. And I did it again. So the third time I go, shit, I meant sorry for banning him. And I spelled it right the last time. So everybody's laughing, the GM's laughing. And then the GM changed my name in the game to ban it. And then I was like, hey, because I was just using like an auto-generated name, and it was like this long mess of characters. EQO had the worst name generator in the history of name generators. And I was like, hey, can I just keep that name? Like, it's a lot better than what I had. And he was like, you know what? Yeah, it's whatever. You're banning now. So that's how I got my name.
Dude. Cool.
That's awesome. I gotta say though, like, a lot of people don't even realize this because I don't think very many games have GM interactions a whole lot anymore. But that's one of the things that made EQ, OA, and EverQuest 1 so fantastic was the GMs and the guides. I mean, some crazy things have happened, and we're all just like GMs.
500-foot spiders showing up at Freeport and just wiping out everything.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere. And then a GM shows up and he's like, ha, gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, it's like with EverQuest doing corp runs and losing experience, it's frustrating. But at the same time, you would not change that outcome for the world. I mean, you still would talk about it today. We are right now, and you're not thinking of, I lost a level. You're just like, that was so crazy. All right, moving on. If you could pick 3 things to be implemented into Pantheon, what would they be and why?
3 things. Give me 1 second. I actually want to remember.
So this is one I gotta think of too. It's like, I'm glad I'm not answering some of these.
So what I talked about earlier, the different type of camps, I'd want to see a mixture of that. So like you were saying earlier, what if there are no static camps? which it's a very valid question. But at the same time, I think that with as big of a world as they've shown us already, and as big as they are telling us it's going to be, why isn't there room for all three styles?
Exactly.
I think that'd be what I'd want. So you can pick how you want to grind. It's not going to impact somebody who wants to do it one way or another, and it's not necessarily catering to make the game easier for someone else, because static camps can be just as difficult depending on the proximity of the mobs. You have to know the proximity of the mobs. You have to know what their hate radius is. You have to know, if there's a pack of 3 that are not difficult, but then there's one in there that is just super difficult, that one could wipe you. It doesn't mean that it's more easy or more difficult. Something that you guys actually said in one of your past streams got me thinking. I listened to y'all while I mow the grass. I listened to y'all while I'm driving, stuff like that. I was actually mowing the grass, and y'all were talking about, I want to say it was like the climate system and weather effects. And some of the things you said got me thinking about, like, what if, and I think y'all actually said, like, how weather could affect crafting and, like, slushing through the mud and stuff like that. Well, what if weather affected gathering? Like, if there's a drought, like it hasn't rained in 3 weeks, well, then fruits and vegetables might be harder to get to, and you have to go further out, or you have to import them from another land. It would help the economy,
That's awesome. Yep.
See, there's 3 of us on this show sometimes, and we don't think of everything.
Yep.
But that is awesome, because that, in my opinion, would go hand in hand with, like, only local auction houses, because then you would see a very dynamic and shifting economy. Which, even though I'm not much of a crafter, I'm not much of an economist, I think the prospect of that in an MMO is rather exciting.
It opens up so many random possibilities, outcomes that can happen. An area's flooded. You can't get to that area where there's rocks or where there's special plants or special trees. There's a thunderstorm going on with lightning. Boom! The trees you want to go gather all been burnt to the ground. There's nothing there. So yeah, that's a wild, crazy idea, and I think I personally would dig that up. Definitely, that's cool.
And it's getting these little ideas from other viewers, other players, other community members. That honestly makes all the work on the show, all the stupid things I've said and done, worth it. Because right there, it's like mind blown.
Yep.
And I honestly think they could push it even further. Like, just staying on that, they could do it seasonal, like it is in real life. Like my wife likes to plant. She has a green thumb. I kill anything I touch. But it's like, you don't plant something in winter that only grows in the summer. So what if, like, we need these ingredients to make an apple pie? Well, it's now, winter on this continent and it's summer on the other continent. We have to import apples, because they won't grow in the cold. Stuff like that. I think that would be cool. And like I said, the weather, what if it rains too much? A mine fills up with water. You can't get to your ore.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff. The last thing I want to see, and it's not something I want to see. So, being that the question is like implemented into Pantheon, it's not something I want to see implemented into the game itself, but it's something I want to see implemented into the franchise as a whole. I am a humongous lore buff. Like, that's the reason I played World of Warcraft, is I loved the lore, and I'm not even gonna get into that whole. I love lore, and I want to see more done with it. Like, they have a great story already, but I feel like there's not enough to consume.
Yeah. And
right now would be a very optimal time to do it. I would love to see maybe some ebooks get released, comics. maybe a couple of like little animated shorts, just like made out of comic frames, stuff like that. The other thing I really want to see when it comes to lore is specific lore about specific characters in the game. So World of Warcraft, and I'm using this as an example because it's something a lot of people can relate to. A lot of people were drawn to Thrall. A lot of people were drawn, like, my favorite character in there was Vol'jin. I'm a huge Vol'jin fan, and when he died, like, I went and whenever I saw that cinematic, I took a few days off work to play that because I purposely didn't watch trailers and all that stuff. I wanted to see it for myself. When Vol'jin died, I ran out of the office, ran into the bedroom, and I was telling my wife, I was like, "You're not gonna believe what just happened." And she was like, "You are way too emotionally invested in that shit." I was like, "Well, babe, I've been doing it. I've been playing Warcraft since I was 10 years old, all right?" But, like, building a story around a character also builds story to the world.
Yep.
Yes.
Like,
very true.
And I would love to see, because right now we know a lot about some of the specific gods. We know about the Dragon Wars. We know about, like, the Dragon Accord. We know a lot of that stuff. But I would like to see some of the mortal people who have been shaping Terminus and what their stories are. Like, maybe some of the governors around King's Reach. Maybe some of the, like, political influences have been going on. Some of the high-end traders who have been shaping the economies for years before we actually get in game. I want to know about these people.
Yeah, because that kind of shapes, like, the interaction between different races. Maybe there's tension between the Dire Lords and the Paladins. I mean, when you get the story in your head and you get in the game, you're already immersed before you've logged in.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, for us as well, we actually, got to know a guy who joined us then, and we turned him into our lore scribe. We write our own lore. We had competitions where we, had people write up lore, and some of the stuff that these people create out of, concepts that we put forward. And that can interact and relate to the lore that's already existing. I am really looking forward to the lore evolve itself, and I am actually looking forward to player-made lore adding to it.
Well, I mean, it's like even with fan-created fiction, in terms of Pantheon anyway. Even if they don't fit the lore 100%, because a lot of these people just do it for fun in their spare time, the stories are so engaging.
Yeah.
That I love to read. I'm sitting there going, I kind of want to print this out.
Yep. Definitely.
Well, going off what you said, Yarn, I mean, they could, VR could put in something right now that just says, "Hey, here's what we have. Here is an ebook, a collection of all the lore that we have already produced. It's already on the website, but here's all of it in a convenient one place." And then say, "We're going to give it to you guys and just come back to us with stories." And then pick, make it a contest. Do something with it. Get the community involved in the lore and then make that canon.
Yeah.
I think
if that happened, I think the community would just explode.
We even discuss lore itself, I think, a bit on a few of our shows as well. Player driven in game, for instance, having you being able to build up your player driven lore relating to your race and your character, or even connecting to that somehow, and over time learning more about your race, your background, where you came from, what happened, stuff like that. People will eat that up. They will eat that up. There's so many people interested in lore. It's unbelievable.
Oh yeah. Well, it's like I haven't been much of a lore buff since EverQuest 1 because I got so invested in my Ixar characters because I love their lore. Their story is phenomenal. And I always get disappointed when I log back in just for nostalgia's sake, and I see that Cabalist is still in ruins, and I'm like, I would build this place up brick by brick if you let me.
Yeah. So, moving along. This is a cool question now. If you could... whoops, I went almost like that. I nearly did it there. Whoops, wrong. Okay. Hold it. Those are Lex's questions. He gets the cool ones. What is your number one thing from the game Tenants that stands out the most, and why?
So, reading it directly from their site, a belief that meaningful character and progression will always involve players increasing in both power and prestige. So it's that last bit that really caught my attention. I think that one word is what really drew me to this game. So to expand on that, it's like how I interpret it is that you can put forth just crazy amounts of time and energy and gold. You can throw gold at crafters till the cows come home. But if you are not regarded in the community with prestige, if you are not like somebody that everybody wants to turn to whenever they're having a crappy day, if you are not that person and you are just some jerk that like trains people to get their camps, you know, swindle people, new players out of money. You know, here's this amazing sword that they don't know they could go get for 25 gold, and you're saying this is going to cost you 75 gold. I'm giving it to you for a discount. You know, that sort of thing. That your character's name won't have the weight to be allowed into really progressing. Because in a game like this, if you have a bad reputation, nobody's going to want to play with you. And if nobody wants to play with you, then in a group-centric game, how are you going to progress?
Yep. Definitely.
And I think it's that player prestige. Now they might mean something else when they said this, but this is just my own interpretation of it. That your reputation, your prestige with everyone else, your esteem, that's going to matter. At least that's what my hopes are.
Yep.
Cool. So following on that, what is your number one thing from the Pantheon difference you want to see in-game the most?
It's kind of a mixture between perception and progeny. I think they're going to be able to do a lot with the perception system, not just with questing, but crafting and player interaction, guild interaction. You know, if they just, and again, this is just me being 100% hypothetical, but if they put in a system where guilds could be at war with each other, if you got near somebody that was in a separate guild that you were at war with and you didn't necessarily know about it, your GM set it up, you get close to that person, your prestige sets off, or your perception sets off, somebody near you is watching you or something like that. You know, I think that'd be kind of cool. But
oh my God,
I think they could do so much with it. And then the progeny system, it gives me like a really heavy feeling of like kind of what they did with Dungeons and Dragons Online, where you reached the max level and you could re-roll your character and you got a little bit of bonuses and stuff like that. I really like that aspect of DDO, and I kind of feel that's kind of the path they're going with it. It's obviously not the same, but I liked it. So I think I'm going to enjoy Progeny.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm still kind of on the fence with that whole system. So, if you could spend a day with a single person at VR, who would it be and why?
And this is if it's okay, babe. If the dogs weren't harassing all the time, I would say because I'm gonna slaughter this. It's kind of a Spanish name, but Albert Barres. I have a hard time with that, just because like coming from an IT background, and knowing, like, I do a lot of research before I invest in a game like this. His IT background, he was in one of the first companies that moved to like cloud infrastructure, and he has a lot of really in-depth knowledge on like servers and IT and cloud technology and all this stuff. And to have somebody with that much experience implementing a game like this, I think that from my own perspective and knowing how difficult that stuff can be, it's just amazing that they have somebody like that. Like what I would want to do for that day is just pick his brain about, because right now I'm going to be working towards my AWS certification soon. And just to have somebody with that much cloud experience would be phenomenal. And I think that, from, like I said, my own perspective, I think that having somebody with that much knowledge is just an amazing asset that not a lot of people realize that we have on a game like this.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I mean, and that kind of holds true with a lot of their staff. I mean, with a lot of them being from EverQuest, I mean, these are some of the pioneers of the 3D MMO space.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they got crazy talent, is all I'm going to say. And I know we kind of already covered this a little bit, but are you main for the game or an altaholic?
Main. I do plan to have some alts. I will at launch make a human warrior and a dwarf cleric. Those are my two that I want to play. And then when the other ones I want to play come out, it's probably going to be like human necromancer, and I don't know what I want to do with bard yet. In all the other games, like in EQOA, I was a warrior, I was a tank. In Final Fantasy XI, I was a bard white mage, and I'd swap between the two. Sometimes I'd main white mage, sometimes I'd main bard. But I was always, like, in that game, you could have a slash, and you'd have two classes at once. So I was always switching the two. In WoW, I was exclusively a resto shaman. So I've always been the healer tank type.
Cool. So, next question, and I'm going to kind of expand on this. What is your guild preference? And you've mentioned, I think, in the forums and also in discussions with me, that you are also in a guild that basically contributes as well in some form and fashion. Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Yeah, definitely. Specifically for Pantheon, I really want to hit PvE a lot. But as far as like the specifics of the guild that I plan on, I'm actually looking to build a guild or join a guild and have that guild become part of a larger organization. The organization that I run with, I'm actually the founder and one of the operators of bunkergaming.com. And what we do is we have charity events throughout the year. Last year, we collected toys. We had over 200 toys. I think it was a little over 20, 40 pounds, something like that. And we went to area hospitals and we handed out children. We handed out children to toys. We handed out toys to children.
No way.
And we did like a run. We did a 5K run, and the money went to children's hospitals. We did. Me, my wife, and another member of our community wrote handmade holiday cards. And then we collected all of them together. It was about, I think we had a little over 100, maybe close to 200. I don't remember off the top of my head. And we donated all the cards to the VA. Nice. And they would hand them out as veterans came in to get medical care. We do stuff like that. And
awesome.
We do it with the idea that there's a lot of bad press when it comes to gamers, especially recently. Like you look at the thing with a lot of like recently there was like a racist rant with Overwatch and stuff like that. Like that, you see a lot of that in the news, like that's what the headliners pick up. But then you see organizations like ours where we are gamers. That's what we want to do. And we want to bring that passion to other aspects in the world and show people that all gamers aren't just yelling curse words into their microphone and yelling at little kids who miss a shot on Call of Duty and stuff like that. Like, we're out there and help people.
Awesome, man.
The world definitely needs more good people.
Yep, definitely. So, some personal stuff. What other interests outside of gaming do you have?
I love spending time with my wife. Our pets. We have 4 dogs, 7 rats, 2 cats. We just gave 2 guinea pigs to my buddy. His kids came over for their birthday, and they ran in my backyard, and they're like, "We want the guinea pigs." And my wife was standing there with their mom, and she was like, "Well, y'all could take them," and without even asking my buddy. It was hilarious. I enjoy reading. I like a lot of history books and fantasy books. I like tabletop gaming, D&D, Exodus, stuff like that. I actually have a giant collection of board games right there. It's huge. I enjoy pet projects when it comes to like HTML, CSS, computer networking. I volunteer with a fire department. I'm a firefighter and an EMT. I love doing that. Like I said, I own and operate that charity organization. I love charity works. I'm a part of a Star Trek fan club that does a lot of charity work, Starfleet. And one niche thing that I'm starting to get into, my wife loves it, is there's a abandoned and abused bunny farm, bunny ranch, and we collect bottles. And up at work, we get we have free snacks and free drinks at work, and I put these boxes around the office with bottles for bunnies on it. And we bring them to the bunny farm, and they put water in them and freeze them so the bunnies can stay cool during the summer and stuff like that. So I like to do I love volunteer work. I love reading. I love gaming. Those are my releases.
So all I can say to that is you give people like me something to aspire to.
Definitely. Kudos, man. And before we move on next to the last 2 questions, I brought it up on the screen for everybody to see. The Pantheonwiki itself. Do you want to give us a quick brief rundown? I have the wiki open. You can see it on the screen. And talk us through it, because for me personally, what I love about this particular design, it's very clean and easy on the eyes. It's not overcrowded, because when I see all these online wikis, it doesn't matter for what game it is or for whatever it is, there's so much advertising here and there, and it's slapped together. This is what I call a unique, brilliant design. It's very clean. The overview is amazing. It's broken down into segments, and so you must have put a lot of work into this, because this is the cleanest wiki and the most sought out wiki that I've ever seen in many years of using wikis, especially when it comes to gaming. And wow, honestly. So talk us a bit about talk us through a bit about what people
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate it. So a lot of it was done before I got a hold of it, but like the backgrounds and stuff like that were already done. I think that VA either did it or they had somebody at the very, very beginning stages do it. But if you see we're next to Monk and all that, some of those had pictures and some of them were just like some of the races, and it didn't make sense to me. So I built those images, put them there. We didn't have images for the Bard Necromancer. I put those there. Races, same thing. Races actually had little, just regular bullet points, little black bullet points. So I took the bullet points out and turned all the images actually into hyperlinks. So if you click the human, it'll bring you to the human page. And I fixed all the images in that template on the side there. And updated a lot of the text. And then if you want to see what I was talking about with the bullet points and the questing, I can show you that real quick if you go back one page. Okay. So if you scroll down towards the bottom. A lot of this text, by the way, was not consolidated. I fixed that, and then I added stuff for like player websites that are like fan sites that are being made, and YouTube channels. I think you guys are actually up there too. And I've put the videos over there. And then if you look like next to character information, those were just bullet points. So to actually give it more of a Pantheon feel, I removed the bullet points and I uploaded the image itself and made those the new bullet points. So if you go to Quest, it'll give you a breakdown of locations.
Oh, I'm looking for that right now. Where am I?
It's under game information. You were just hovering over it.
Okay, there we go. Quest. So go to there.
So I'm trying to remember where they did Throne Fast. If you go to Throne Fast,
yep,
there's the first quest that we have logged, and this was built with all the information from the December video with Co. We have a description. We have the complete walkthrough. We have on the side there, you actually have the quest, the original quest giver, with all of the people that you could. So when they were describing the perception system, you can actually pick the quest up and skip parts based on your perception. So if you ran into Eric later, he could give you the quest instead of Anne. So I put all of the people there as quest givers, took screenshots of all their different people. A lot of some, like the available to races, that's a template. That was just me testing stuff. But the rewards, if you click one of the rewards, I actually pulled images from the live stream.
Awesome.
And honestly, that's exactly what we need.
Yep.
Yeah, and I've got some other things in the works right now. I can't go into a lot of detail on those just because
Can
if
I just quickly butt in here,
ahead.
though? I love it. It's clean, the overview, you're not overwhelmed, you're not seeking out and trying to figure out where to go and what stuff to read and whatnot. Awesome job, man. This is really good. This is really good. So people, help support this site. I also saw that a lot of people actually contributed. Let me go back to the main page real quick. Sorry for butting in there, but where did I see that?
It's probably on the left-hand side there. There was actually an issue with that.
622 pages, 142 articles written by 254,047 users. That's insane.
So take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. I was actually talking to Kilson about that. I read I think it was a thread in there. The problem with that is whenever they launched the wiki right away, there was like a botnet that went and made a bunch of like very minor changes, and it racked that number up. So that when it says that it's written by that many users, it actually took into account anybody that registered originally when it launched. So those are actually bot. A lot of those are bot accounts that haven't actually made any changes. They're just users that registered at the time of the launch.
Because that was going to bring in a question, because I was like, 254,000 people already contributed to this site, and we didn't even know about it. The community wasn't aware. I was like, when was this?
Yeah, and there was actually a post in the official forums. It's stickied in there, that it went live, and then it's in the footer of the Pantheon website. So if anybody's trying to get to it, if anybody's trying to find it, you don't need to know the URL. If you go to PantheonMMO.com, it's in the footer of the site, and then there's actually a sticky thread in the news forum on the official wiki or the official forums.
Cool.
Very cool.
Yep. So thanks for putting the time and helping VR out with this, bringing it to life, and
that's many hours.
Adjusting it and making it look even more spiffy. Kudos to VR because it looks really professional, and that's what we expect and have seen time and time again from VR themselves. They are such an amazing team of talented folk out there who know exactly what they're doing, and this wiki shows it as well. And obviously a lot of credit goes to you too, and thanks for doing this. Definitely.
Just glad to help. Glad that they put this up here and the community can be a part of it.
So,
Amen to that.
Yep, amen. And before we finish off here with these last two questions, I got to ask Lex, why is it that you always get to ask that last question? Every single time we've done a player Q&A, you've been the one to ask that question. Every single time.
It's because I'm jinxed. Whenever I say it, they never pick me.
Well, we'll see what happens.
We'll
see what happens.
Nah. Pick me, I'd be like, now we're just getting into the pity now.
3 times a charm, dude. 3 times a charm.
So, to preface that, I'm just going to say I already have my answer. So, whatever was just said is not going to affect my answer. I already have it in my head.
Regardless what the answer is, I am not going to be upset because, I don't feel I do very much.
Let me just go and clarify something quickly before we do that. The reason why this question is in there is it's one of the questions, actually. It was the first time we interviewed Kilson. I was gathering questions from Lex, Kodiak, and whatnot, and from Dow to put together to go and interview Kilson. And he basically threw that question out there for Kilson to answer. And since then,
as a joke,
we've ran with that. We have to have that question. That question will always be in, and it will always be asked. Just for shits and giggles, just for joking
just to rub it in my face a little more.
But it was such an amazing question. I was petrified to actually pass that question on to VR and say, hey, here's some of the questions that we want to ask you. I was petrified to put that in there because I thought, whoa. Did he really just go there?
I gave him that question because I knew he had to submit the questions so that we didn't blindside them, which, normal. And I thought it was going to be pretty embarrassing and give people a good laugh. And now I'm the one getting embarrassed every time it's asked. So I'm just like, I can't believe he's kept it in there. Okay, but moving on. Do you have a ritual for long gaming sessions? And if you do, what are they?
And that was answered as well earlier on a bit.
Well, actually, for long gaming sessions and for special events, I do have something that I like to do, but sadly I haven't been able to do for quite a few years now. Since Jolt Cola is out of production, and I physically can't drink a 2-liter of Shasta by myself anymore. I like to get some chips, some Twizzlers, 12-pack of Mountain Dew, turn on some either old rock, trance, ska, or nerdcore music, lock myself in whatever room I'm going to be in, and just play. Like, it's Nirvana.
So Lex, you heard it. He does like the ska after all.
No, he said ska, not scar.
I heard ska. Lex. I'm trying to back you up here, buddy.
I know. But trust me, I'm going to be the first one that says no one wants to listen to a Scar sing. So, here's the $1 million question. Who is the VoT host with the most?
Okay, so I got to go with Lex because we talked in Discord a lot, and we have a lot in common. Like, we have a lot of the same background. We have a lot of the same. We have gone into some pretty in-depth conversations, me and you, and I feel like
some pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah, we have a lot more in common than I would have even thought.
Yeah.
But that being said, I think the question's worded wrong. I think it should be, what is the Pantheon show with the most? And that would be Voices of Terminus.
Ooh. Now that's some sweet talk there, man.
Hell yeah.
But Lex, I told you, man. 3rd time's a charm, dude.
Yeah, I'm always hard on myself, so.
So that was all the questions. all the questions.
Let me go grab something real quick.
All right, then.
Before I didn't think about it till just now.
Swear to God, if it's like a Scar voodoo doll, I'm just gonna lose it.
Oh, I see something.
So, how many of us here are EverQuest fans, real quick?
I'm a.
All of it.
I'll put my hand up. I'm definitely an EverQuest fan. I liked, where, it's the grandfather. It brought me EverQuest 2, my gaming background, so I'm definitely a fan.
So, we want to talk old school.
Oh my God.
I have the original handbook, original monster manual, and the GM guide.
Awesome, man.
Wow.
Wow.
That's hardcore.
That is awesome.
That is absolutely awesome.
So, your final words for VR, man?
Stay golden, pony boy. Just keep doing what you're doing. I think that as long as you stick to your guns, don't change, you're going to have a dedicated audience craving what you put out. Your content is going to be the sip of water in the desert of theme park MMOs. And I'd like to see just this game blow up because it deserves it.
Definitely.
Very well said.
Couldn't agree more.
Yep.
So,
despite how much slack I give the acclamation system, they could turn it into puppies and kittens. I'd be like, fine.
It wasn't so much, flack and everything.
No.
There's.
Or
I can understand. I
I
can understand where some of the concerns came, and we're all passionate, and we all want to see VR succeed and Pantheon be the next big thing, and yeah.
Regardless, it's going to be the next big thing for me.
Yeah.
That's all I'm worried about.
Anyway, Burns, MH, thanks for joining us.
Yep,
You've
thank
been
you very much.
Awesome guest.
Thanks for having me, guys.
A lot of fun. You're definitely a very interesting person, and thank you for everything that you do, charity-wise as well, outside of the game.
Yep. And out of the game.
Definitely, and thank you for being awesome, dude. And with
Appreciate
that,
it, guys. Thanks for having me. You guys keep doing this. Y'all are definitely a pillar of this community.
Thank you, man. So with that, everybody, we will see you on Thursday, the 8th of June for the next show. And what that will be is still not picked yet, because this is a pre-recording. Nah. And with that, we are out.
God.